This video is going to be a film study look at 8 or 10 plays from the Ravens' Week 8 loss to the Browns on the road in the AFC North, dropping us to 5-3. Ravens fans have every right to be disappointed, angry, and frustrated with our defense were it not for a spectacular game against the Bills at home and two of Marlon Humphrey's interceptions against the Bucs and a third against the Bengals. We could be looking at a drastically different season. If Marlon Humphrey doesn't make all three of those plays and we come up with a fantastic performance on defense against the Bills, that's a lot of ifs. This is a very different looking season in spite of the fact that our offense is operating at league high efficiency and output. What I'm going to do here is look at a handful of plays from the second half, one play from the second possession of the game, all Ravens defense, and talk about systemic things, issues that are there, and suggestions that I have how to fix it. Couple of things. Number one, as a defense coordinator, you have to admit you can't defend everything. You cannot stop everything, and I believe in being intentional to try to stop certain things, not selling out to stop the run, selling out to stop the pass on a particular play. To a certain degree, then you just end up guessing and kind of overplaying your hand. But teaching players, athletes, young men, reads and pre-snap keys and then post-snap reads to get them to the football and on the play concepts you are most likely to see in that situation. It's an extremely complicated thing, and in some ways I probably present it as being more simple than it actually is. But I do believe in some of these precepts, and I'm going to give you some of them. Number one, you can't defend everything. And so, therefore, I believe you must be intentional in certain situations to take things away from the offense. Well, you can't predict what plays they're going to call, so you have to teach your players to do so, in my opinion. And that's what hasn't been done from a systemic standpoint based on my own limited understanding. Number two, you have to be more physical when you can. When the defense gives you something, take it. I'm talking about tight ends that are attached to the formation. And I'll show a couple of plays that I think illustrate that. Edge defenders running by tight ends, not touching them at all, putting our inside linebackers, nickel defenders, and DBs in more difficult positions because we haven't impeded routes at all. If you complain about our pass rush, and we're going to have a, quote, poor pass rush anyway, we are fourth in sacks, by the way. I believe fourth in sacks, maybe fifth. Then why not advocate for jamming or impeding the release of as many guys as possible so whatever pass rush we are generating can get there? I understand people would say, wait a minute, you want our pass rush to be worse? Let me show you the film, and hopefully I can explain what I'm talking about. Additional to that, or connected to the tight end issue, is the read 3 or 4 concept. And I'll show the first play that I'll show will be a drop or perhaps a tip pass by Kyle Hamilton on the Browns' second possession that I think illustrates it. Finally, our disguises. Are they working in our favor? What's the risk reward out of them? It seems to me that there are many times we are trying to hide our coverage until the last second. I wonder if it wouldn't be a better thing to get our guys on the move right before the ball is snapped. Yes, you're giving away your look to the quarterback, but they seem to know them already. How many times did Jameis Winston get to one read, move to the second, and come back to a third? I didn't see it that often, in my opinion. It seemed like when we brought pressure and disrupted his flow, then he was less accurate and we had opportunities for interceptions. Let's get to the film. It'll be one play from the second quarter. This is a 2nd and 4. Kyle Hamilton's going to be on a blitz from the trip side, the top side of the formation. And you can see that they're targeting Njoku out into the flats up here. And from a numerical standpoint, Kyle Hamilton is blitzing, so he's moving towards Jameis Winston. We're going to be in recovery position with Roquan Smith. It's going to be a 3-on-3. Very similar to the empty touchdown, in my opinion, to Jamar Chase earlier in the season. Fortunately for us, it ends up being a little bit behind Njoku. I do think or wonder if Kyle Hamilton tipped it. You can see he is illustrating that he did. It doesn't seem like they gave him a statistical designation for that. So here's the same play from the end zone angle, and then we'll get back to the all-22 in a moment. So when I say read 3 or 4, be physical with tight ends, I'm talking about stuff like this. We are absolutely not even aware. I know that Odafe Owe knows there's a tight end to that side. We are absolutely unaware from a functional standpoint how we react that there's a tight end out here who releases to the outside. Am I saying that maybe we need to put the 3 technique to the tight end side all the time and jam the tight end? Well, that precept, that foundational reaction from defenses did exist for about 60 or 70 years. You can say the game has changed all you want, but these guys, these tight ends are killing us. Fortunately for us, Kyle Hamilton is able to get a hand on it. I offer to you that if this is the way that we're going to defend things like this from a structural standpoint, it is less sound than jamming, touching the tight end, number one, or at least reading him with an inside linebacker, because the free safety to that side is nowhere to be found. I believe it's Ardarius Washington. Has rolled to replace Kyle Hamilton, and then the free safety, Eddie Jackson, my apologies, rolling to center field. If he's the fourth player getting there, that's too far to go. And what I mean is 1, 2, 3. You need to have some type of reaction built in that gets a fourth player to the football so you have a numerical advantage over there. Yes, conceptually it's an RPO, and Jameis Winston, the quarterback, they hold the chalk last, if you will, because he can give it theoretically or keep it. And in this case, he keeps it. I think someone should be reacting to the tight end's read and responding to that. And usually, in my experience, it would be an edge defender or an inside linebacker. Yes, it means subtracting someone from the run fit. In my opinion, we do a poor job of recognizing the threat that tight ends are on a play-by-play basis. And getting hands on them is something that I'm going to talk about again later in the video. I think it needs to be more of a focus by this team because we are consistently, in my opinion, one of the least physical defenses that I get to watch on film. I watch the Lions and the Ravens a lot, obviously, and to compare the two in terms of level of physicality is a world of difference. And that it brings me zero joy to tell you that. I suspected it about 3 weeks ago, but I hope that we would get around to the point where that dynamic changed. It has not. I feel like we're not very aggressive here. Roquan Smith coming downhill on this run concept. Theoretically, it could be a play action with Jameis Winston booting up to the top side of our screen. In this case, since we're at the end zone angle, it's going to be the left-hand side. Additional to that, I don't think we're squeezing down here at all at the defensive tackle position. It's 11 personnel run game into the boundary. One of the things I've talked about for over a year that I think we have trouble with. We didn't touch the guard, and in fact, we stepped to the tackle. To me, this is a 0 from a defensive tackle standpoint. And then he does close down and get a piece of Chubb, but look what's been created. This huge gap for Roquan to be involved in. Now, I would like to see Roquan be a little bit more aggressive, but he's a very aware and savvy football player. He understood, I think, in the moment how big that gap, that space was that he might have to fill. And so he didn't want to commit to one side or the other and give Chubb a lane. In my opinion, you've got a 0 by the defensive tackle. And in this case, this would be under our rating system, which was normally out of 5. This would be a 1.5 or maybe a 2 for me for Roquan. And what I mean is there's no violent take on with this offensive lineman such that the next – see, the way we would look at it is the next time that offensive lineman is tasked to come and get you, we want him to understand what's going to happen to his body. We want him to understand the type of collision he's going to deal with. Now, part and parcel to that is we're not touching him at all. We're not reacting to what I believe should be our key. Okay, cool. You want to say we're slanting. Well, if we're slanting here, then we should be slanting there. Normally, the defensive tackles are going to slant in the same direction. You never, ever, ever want to have one guy stepping out and the other guy stepping out as well and open up 2 A-gaps, unless you're filling them with like some type of exotic or crazy style blitz. So my point here is I think you've got a poor example of how to play defensive tackle from a 3-technique standpoint. It bleeds into Roquan being far less physical than I would like to see him on this particular play. Again, these are third-quarter offensive plays. I think this is the very next play. In fact, same formation out of 11 personnel, motion all the way across, and this is a sign of a defense that's not coordinated very well. When we get to the end zone angle, I'll try to explain this to you guys, and it's fine if you don't believe me in some of the things that I'm saying. You certainly, you're right to do that. And in fact, I would like it if you did question me as much as possible. Now, Travis Jones doesn't stunt all the way across into this A gap. From a responsibility standpoint, you've got a C gap player, Roquan's a B gap player, A gap player, Travis Jones. Watch what Travis Jones does. I think we're trying to take away duo here. I think we, as a Ravens defense, are suspecting that it's duo, so we're trying to take it away. Great, we're trying to take away something. It's 11 personnel, very Rams-esque, if you ask me, to be an 11 personnel and run duo. And Travis Jones has tried to stunt all the way across here into the A gap. So remember, Roquan B gap player, C gap player. Who is the A gap player? We'll let this flow through. Roquan gives a great effort to try to get to Chubb, who is a fantastic running back with excellent vision. He's going to find the gap. And in this case, guess where he ends up? That A gap to the side that I pointed out where Travis Jones stunted. Is Travis Jones not supposed to stunt? Normally, if you're going to do something like that, then this guy's going to have flow rules over the top. But it's duo, so he's being threatened to his side, meaning Trenton Simpson is being threatened to his side with the possibility that Chubb could take it here, maybe bounce it outside. That's the duo drill if you're not familiar, and then bounce it back out what I would call the back door. So credit to the Browns for the design of it, but we've got to have better answers, in my opinion, than slanting or stunting and leaving what I consider to be an open gap, whether we've got to get a DB involved. It doesn't look well coordinated for the NFL level, in my opinion. Defenses I've been responsible for have we had things like that happen? Absolutely. Sure. If you're a coach and you're listening, you've had those issues. But don't make excuses for it. Take responsibility if you're the person in charge, if you're the man in charge, and then find a way to fix it so that you don't end up with a wide open gap on a concept that you were trying to stop in the first place. Still in the third quarter, it's going to be a max protect. Credit to the Browns here for this. You know, they've got essentially a two-man route. One of the other receivers has peeled down to help protect the edge. And I would say this is man-free. And so since it's man-free, if you accept that, it's a 31-yard completion to Judy against Brandon Stephens. He gave us, significant problems. I don't think Brandon Stephens is playing well. I think it's fair to ask whether when Wiggins comes back, whether we should be looking at playing Marlon Humphrey over there and then Wiggins down here some. Give Brandon Stephens an opportunity to get in the game at times in a rotation, but don't expect him to be a shutdown corner 100% of the game because right now he's not doing that. So check out Roquan on this one. A little bit more negative flavor when I'm talking about some of these things in the third quarter. I think he needs to find work. Personally, given the fact that Kyle Hamilton is attacking here, I think he's responsible for coverage, Kyle Hamilton. And that player, since it's man-free, is involved in the pass pro. So Kyle Hamilton's blitzing. We don't need Roquan there. In my opinion, we need Roquan in the low hole area here. And he is about 8 yards forward of where he should be. Is he going to stop this pass play? No. Let me give you the end zone angle so you can see what I'm talking about. We'll just skip forward. You'll be able to see what I'm talking about a little bit more clearly where this ball is completed. No. I don't think that Roquan is the guy who can or will stop this pass play. Trenton Simpson is responsible for the back, in my opinion. I think you've got a tight end blocking here, and that's Kyle Hamilton's man, so he's going to blitz. And then JAD has got Tillman here who's involved in the pass pro. It's a nice play design by the Browns, going max pro, and Brandon Stephens is beat badly. 4 or 5 yards separation there. I think Roquan is hedging too far forward, and it is my suspicion that we are undisciplined on defense like we've never really seen before, at least in recent years for the Baltimore Ravens. This one is very difficult to justify and defend. So I'll get to this in a moment. When you have coverage calls, they've got to be coordinated either right and left, so one side of the field playing a particular half-field coverage and the other side that is independent, or it's ubiquitous. It's a blanket statement. Cover 3. Tampa 2. You may have a cover 3 with a man call to the backside, so opposite of the passing strength. Here's what bothers me. This play is to the passing strength. You can't mess this up. This can't be messed up over here. Watch Brandon Stephens' reaction to Tillman's route. It's an incomplete pass. You may say, Coach, this is inconsequential to what occurs in the flow of the game. Kind of looks like cover 3 in some ways. JAD releasing vertical, trying to get somewhat attached to that route, but he's also got a wheel developing here. Perhaps Kyle Hamilton's the flat defender. Perhaps we're a flat defender. We did play a lot of cover 3 against the Browns, so don't get me wrong. This could be cover 3, and it certainly looks like the Browns are running a cover 3 beater where you have 2 verticals, and they're reading the free safety, and we'll watch the end zone angle of this one time so you can see Jameis Winston look to his right. Back it up a little bit. My apologies. Look to his right initially, where Njoku is. Remember, Njoku's running a seam vertical. There's a free safety in the middle of the field, Eddie Jackson. This is like day one stuff for defensive backs. Comes back to the backside. Eddie Jackson isn't the problem here. The problem is our cut. We want to catch the football, but I'm talking about from a standpoint of leaving this guy open. Man here, watch the turn by Brandon Stevens. Yeah, you're going to play cover three sometimes. You're going to play man to the backside of cover three. But this is a two-receiver side. This can't happen. Let's say for a moment that I think it's Tillman brings his route back in and I'll post. And this guy runs to the corner. You guys are losing some of that there, so my apologies. And we're playing cover three here, curl flat, and man with Brandon Stevens. Where does Brandon Stevens go? He goes with this route path right here, and he ends up there. My point is this is not well coordinated. This can't happen, in my opinion. The Browns, are running a cover three beater, fortunately, where they're essentially reading the free safety and the hook to curl defenders, looking to see which guy pops open on the seam. Well, Jameis Winston is correct here. Why? Because we're playing man on the number one receiver, and we're inside leverage zone here. We're not in the right call. Excuse me. We're not in the same call there. We play a lot of man backside. Fine. It helped us and benefited us last year. It may be time to make these coverage calls a little bit more ubiquitous. Hopefully I explained that one in a way that makes sense. I understand that perhaps I may have glossed over some stuff. Forgive me for that, but in my opinion, that's a day 2 or day 3 drill for the defense to check out of a particular coverage, meaning we're not going to play 3 with a Maryland call, man backside, or 3 with a Louis, or 3 solo, whatever people want to call it. You can't play solo over there, or Louis, or man, because it's twins. What if it's post wheel or slant wheel? It's an easy touchdown on the wheel. My point is it's shocking to see that lack of coordination for me. 3rd and 11, as shocking and bad as that one was, and I spent a significant amount of time talking about it, there's really nothing to say here that's positive about anyone. Coaching staff, players, this can't happen. Not only are we not able to get into the right look from the standpoint of guys being lined up, Van Noy and Owe are on the same side. Kyle Van Noy is not a low awareness football player. I would say he's among the highest awareness football players that I have seen in the time I've tried to break down NFL film. Owe is a young football player. There are times where you say, hey, Kyle, go on ahead, get over here even if we're wrong, because we're late on the play clock. I almost said shot clock. We're in basketball season. In my opinion, this is scary that guys are messing this up so frequently. And then Matabike and Owe are also both switching sides. That can't happen too many more times before I think Harbaugh and the front office and people have got to be public about their criticism and make sure that they're clear and obvious that these things can't occur ever again. Ngakoue on a stunt gets a hit on Jameis Winston. Eddie Jackson drops an interception. I agree with that. I'm going to focus here, though, on what's happening up front. So Ngakoue on this stunt underneath, which is perfect for him because he's got great burst and he plays through contact. And other teams use the same stunt against us on our right guard, right tackle side, and it works often. I want to talk about what is or is not happening over here. I just said great things about Kyle Van Noy. My complaint in the AFC title game last year, number one, after the first 4 or 5 plays was, we're not touching Travis Kelce. Now, the tight end is not targeted here in Njoku. He runs like an over concept, over the top of the linebacker levels, hence the name. In my opinion, given our limitations, inability to stop quarterbacks from just throwing in rhythm, we've got to do something. We've got to, in my opinion, give away something or take something when it's there. And what I mean by take something, I don't mean take the ball. Yeah, Eddie Jackson's got to catch it. Like if you're so short-sighted, that's the only issue you see on this play, either grow up or stop watching. Because this here is something we can take. It's a tight end lined up right here in our face. We could absolutely tighten our alignment, get to his outside shoulder, jam him here somewhat, such that Ardarius Washington doesn't have to take over this route so soon. You get the all 22 angle here in a moment. Basically, instead of Njoku being here, almost directly behind Roquan Smith, he would be somewhere in this area here because he's impeded. And they'd be surprised at us doing so. The tight end would probably fall down the first time because we never do it. Watch Ardarius take this route by Njoku. What I'm saying is Ardarius could hold a little longer looking for that, and he's spying it the entire time. This should be man. This is very poor by Brandon Stephens, if you ask me. I think we've still got another man call on the backside. Look at Trenton Simpson matching up into the boundary with the tight end, and then look at Brandon Stephens, who ends up being beat really badly, in my opinion. I think jamming the tight end, giving our guys at the third level of the defense, defensive backs, secondary, corners, whatever you want to call them, giving them more time such that they can react, in my opinion, might be a safer tactical choice in certain moments. What percentage of the time? 50%, 70%? I'm going to say right now, don't make it a gray area. 50% plus. And now, granted, I never coached in an NFL stadium. A couple of times coached in front of like 10,000 people, so it made it very difficult to get calls into your players. So someone's got to control the call. In that particular instance, Njoku was on our left, and Kyle Van Noy was on our left, Roquan Smith was on our left. Those would be the guys making the call. One of those two guys would make a call, whatever it was. One of ours was Kimbo. One of ours was Chuck. I mean, different calls to different sides such that one of the players can communicate it to Kyle Van Noy. Hey, Kimbo. So you're going to jam the guy and then rush. It's going to make you slower in the pass rush, but it's going to impede that tight end from getting out on the route, give us less conflict at the DB level. That would be one of my suggestions. I know I belabored the point. My apologies. Ensuing play, I believe the ensuing play, but I could be wrong, is a 3 deep, 3 under. I really like the call. To be honest with you, I really like how we get it done. Njoku shows really high level awareness on a small detail here. We force Jameis Winston to throw the football quickly out into the flats. It's a 3 deep, 3 under. And this route here, I think, is what Jameis Winston wants. Simpson has pushed out to the middle of the field. I don't think Roquan gets really anything done on this blitz at all. So Simpson is going to roll to the middle of the field further than that line's drawn. And I think Roquan goes on a blitz, or is supposed to go on a blitz like that path there. It doesn't really occur. There's no force to it, in my opinion. Maybe it's just an occupied blitz, and we're trying to give Millette a free run through that gap. So maybe I'm being a little bit harsh on Roquan. That certainly looks like he could give a more forceful effort, in my opinion, even if it is an occupied blitz. I really like that particular call. I think we may need to do more of this stuff. Let me get back to Njoku here for a moment. Njoku is here with the running back on his side. He is tasked with first to the flat. So if he drops here and the running back goes there, then Njoku is going to be responsible for that. Excuse me. Ngakoue, my apologies. Ngakoue is going to be responsible for that. As soon as the running back crosses face, as soon as Chubb disappears, Ngakoue, look at his eyes. He's looking at the receiver. That's better than our inside linebackers sometimes in terms of turning and looking at the route. Now, you have to do it here if you're Simpson because you're in recovery mode. You're so far away from your, quote, assigned area, you've got to turn and look at the routes and then settle at depth. Both of those guys, in my opinion, did a nice job there, even though they weren't to the targeted side. Probably belabored some of the points here about touching tight ends, being physical with them, impeding routes when you can. You can't always impede them as an outside corner. There's so many rules, number one. Number two, if we showed that look all the time, then teams are going to run different concepts against us. I do think we should show it at times. I think we should squat the corner sometimes in the flat and play a safety over the top. We got to find ways to be in the right look at, and right now we're struggling in that regard. All right, so one example, if you ask me, of us actually jamming the tight end and impeding his route release, unfortunately comes on a 14-yard pass completion, and it is cover 3. It's Malik Harrison touching the tight end, impeding his release. It's a really nice throw by Jameis Winston, almost a tipped pass by Kyle Hamilton. You can see how pissed off he is. And I'm going to relate this in a moment to jamming the tight end. Hamilton is to the tight end side. You can see Malik Harrison lined up, head up on the tight end. I'm all for it in certain situations. Impedes the tight end a little bit. Now, perhaps the tight end is also in a chip release assignment. It holds 84 for a moment, basically impedes his release, such that Kyle Hamilton is able to get more depth. What I'm saying is, if this tight end wasn't touched, he would have been in this route quicker. Kyle Hamilton might not have been able to get as much depth to almost tip the pass. It's all related, if you ask me. Incredible length. I mean, we have an absolute superstar out there at safety, nickel, dime, linebacker, whatever. Wherever we can put Kyle Hamilton to try to get him to the point of attack, we need to do. You may not accept my assertion that jamming the tight end helps him get out here more. And what I'm saying is he is able to get to his drop with less of a threat because this tight end is tied up. And again, there may be an element there with that tight end assigned to block the edge defender. It's a very clean delineation of a cover three. We played a lot of it. I feel like Harbaugh and probably said to Zach Orr, let's keep things a little bit more vanilla this game. And we certainly played a lot of what I call drop cover three, where one of the safeties sat down on the hash and we pushed someone into the flats. In that particular instance, Jameis Winston made a fantastic throw and was able to get 14 yards. Couple of run plays here. We're into the fourth quarter now, and I know this one's gone quite long. I've sat on this one for about a day because I wanted to be less negative than I'm even sounding right now. It's a nice job of Van Noy setting things inside. Again, we don't touch the tight end, so Njoku is able to get to the front side inside linebacker, Trenton Simpson, and just tie him up. Essentially meaning lock him up and not afford him any opportunity to get involved with the play. Van Noy sets it inside really well. I believe this is Matabike. You will get the end zone angle here in a moment. It's Chubb into the boundary, only gets a yard. Really nice job from a edge setting standpoint for Van Noy. Our width precludes us from being able to touch the tight end, obviously. It's a first down after that 14-yard completion to Moore. There's the collision by Van Noy, Matabike, Jones. Trenton Simpson is locked up by Njoku because, again, Njoku got a free release to work up to him. Roquan's also got a free release, an offensive lineman in his grill, and can't get involved either. This one is maddening for me. Man reaction here. Looks like it's probably man on one, and then Kyle Hamilton is just matching two. And Roquan, to me, is just out-leveraged for the route that's run. Let's do it that way. If Roquan is lined up head up on the tight end, let's say, is it possible that Njoku crosses his face and gets open in the middle of the field? Absolutely, because the running back is running out into the flats and Trenton Simpson is man on him. We play so much man to the backside, to the boundary. I've talked about that, whether it's a man, a Louis call, a solo call, but this is going to get back to a point you guys have heard me rant about already. My apologies if it's getting like beating a dead horse at this point. We don't touch the tight end. We absolutely don't touch him. It's a shotgun formation, 2nd and 9. Could they run the ball on 2nd and 9? Sure, they could. They could absolutely run the ball. From this formation, with Njoku lined up this far outside in a 2-point stance, I don't know what the data says as far as how often they run the football. I would imagine it's probably less than 30% of the time. That's just a cursory guess. Look at the leverage that Roquan has. He is out-leveraged. Thankfully, Njoku isn't running something out into the flats because he's untouched. Reads Roquan quick. It's too easy. It can't be that easy. There's got to be some type of resistance. What type of resistance can we offer? I don't want to see this. Maybe Roquan's feet could be here, and we could not play man to the backside. Once I leave, so these two guys are connected, and these are rules that we would teach. We taught this to 12-year-old kids, so you can believe me whether people teach it or not. Once I leave, meaning I leave my normal alignment, you can't be a man anymore. So there are rules there, and that's also connected to Brandon Stevens, who is off screen. So there's just a lot of communication that has to happen, and maybe this is going to sound ridiculous. Maybe that's too high a level of communication for these guys to get done right now because we can't get basic communication out. But this is too far out leveraged, in my opinion. A simple solution for this particular play, line up Elway head up on him or slightly outside. At least touch the guy and impede his route such that he doesn't just have a free release to get on top of Roquan and Jameis Winston hit him for 8 yards on a 2nd and 9. That play pisses me off to no end because the potential solutions or quick fix that at least solves one problem, not all of them, is let's get hands on the tight end. Let's impede his release for a moment and force our backside guy to win. Let me ask you this. Has Kyle Van Noy won? Yes. If this guy's impeded and his feet are still here and Roquan's actually able to get out some more, what is getting ready to happen? I picked this play intentionally, all right, to make this point. So, call it whatever you want. Call it cherry picking. I think it stands up as one of the basic problems with the Ravens defense, that we're not able to be physical at all, maybe because of rule set, maybe because of scheme. When we have opportunities to put hands on people, I think we should do so. And that would be my main suggestion for pretty much everything that we do, because here's the problem. When we have to defend the run, when it's known run downs, we're able to stop it. I'm going to show you the play in a moment. It's Simpson and others involved on the ensuing 3rd and 1 after that completion to Njoku. I know I messed up and called Ngakoue Njoku. My apologies for that. So we can be physical. We have the talent to be physical. These guys have it in them. We're making stops in some of these situations. It's a really nice play by Trenton Simpson. I think Trenton Simpson film the last 2 or 3 weeks has been spectacular. Feel free to, agree or disagree, or let me know what you think in the comment section. We have the type of guys who can be physical. I think we need some hard-coded rules for tight ends and their width in terms of how far they are lined up away from our tackles, and giving our guys the opportunity to make quick calls, meaning our edge defender and inside linebacker to that side, such that we're able to get hands on them and push them into the inside linebacker. That's sound like an old guy saying, get off my lawn here, so my apologies for that. That is something that's been around in football for 60, 70 years. My inside linebackers are going to need a moment to read, run, or pass. As a result, if we play outside leverage on the tight end and jam him, force him to release inside, we are pushing him into the inside linebacker. We're actually making the coverage easier for the inside linebackers. In my opinion, we have made everything more difficult on Roquan Smith this season. Not in terms of his personal statistics. He's still making a lot of tackles. I think he's top 5 in the league. But from a coverage standpoint, those tight ends getting on top of us, free releases, it explains everything. Ravens fans, regardless of experience, playing, coaching, watching the game, are not wrong for saying there's been more passes in Roquan Smith's, quote, area completed this year than I remembered being an issue. I think part of it is we're not touching tight ends at all. We're just giving them free releases. Think of week 1 against the Chiefs. 3 of those passes that are completed, they're from bunch sets, so it frees up the release for the outside guy. You really can't touch the guy. You really can't touch him. There's no way to assign someone to do so. You're not going to widen the edge defender up 5 yards outside of the tackle. Then they're just going to run the ball off tackle. It's going to be easy. Are there times where we should jam wide receivers and then delay rush our edge defender depending on the width of the wide receiver? I would say yes. You're kind of getting into some classic New England Patriots, Belichick style play with your outside linebackers. And what I'm referring to is the way they defended the Kurt Warner St. Louis Rams in the Super Bowl, the first time they beat the Rams in the Super Bowl, not when they beat the Sean McVay Rams. Maybe you're not old enough to remember that. Chipping tight ends, collisioning running backs out into the flats, collisioning receivers on underneath drags. This defense, in my opinion, could be more physical. At minimum, that would dissuade teams from certain concepts that are pretty much tearing us up right now. That 2nd and 8 throw from Jameis Winston to Njoku is pure BS from a defensive structural standpoint, in my opinion. I get it. People want to say that's the way they play defense in the NFL. Not the teams that win Super Bowls. Not the Kansas City Chiefs. They play physical. Their guys actually do get hands on people, and they impede releases. We could do the same thing at times and play a better quality of defense in terms of physicality and forcing guys off their spot, off their route, off the path that gives the quarterback an easy completion. Things were too easy by Jameis Winston. We have to agree on that, regardless of what we think the quote fix is. Things were way too damn easy for him to get things accomplished across the board, and that can't happen. It's borderline embarrassing to watch the film and feel like as an observer, for myself personally, someone with a huge lack of experience compared to the people responsible for coordinating that side of the ball, to be able to offer suggestions like this is shocking to me, and I'm almost embarrassed for our professional guys on that side who've played at such a high level that they're in the position they're in. I will have a Marcus Williams film study out Wednesday night. It'll be a little less negative than this. My apologies for the rant. If you didn't enjoy it, feel free to, let me know in the comment section. You can dislike the video at all times, which, kind of negatively influences the algorithm for me. If you did enjoy the video, however, please like it, comment down below, and if you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this mostly serious, unfortunately negative look at some things the Ravens defensive staff could do to quick fix before the Denver Broncos come in here in Week 9, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.